So, hello and welcome everybody to our webinar today. Today is a special webinar. Actually, it would be a training usually in our training facility in Wels in Austria, but because of the current situation, we postponed this. We did a short webinar instead about the whole installation and commissioning process of Fronius GEN24 inverters and Fronius SnapINverters. So welcome everybody to this webinar. Before we start, I quickly want to go through the team which is presenting today. So my name is Christoph Schirlinger. I'm from the team Training and Education on the Solar Energy Division in our Fronius company. I'm guiding you through this webinar today. And at the other end of our line today is Hans Pelzer, my colleague. He's also from Team Trainings and Education. He's responsible for the chat today. So here comes my first please. If you have any questions during or after the webinar, please use the chat function on the right side of your screen. Send through your questions, your comments, and Hans is trying to answer them as quick and as good as possible. All right. I quickly want to show you the agenda for today's technical online training, let's say. So first of all, just a few slides about Fronius, what we do and where we produce and so on. Then we want to go into detail on installation instructions of Fronius GEN24, the new inverter we have. Also, the Fronius smart meter will be a short topic. Commissioning is then the next step of the Fronius GEN24 inverter. And at the end, the visualization in Fronius SOLAR.WEB. And after that comes the second part for the SnapINverter. It's in general the same structure. We talk about installation instructions of the SnapINverters and also the commissioning process. Please note it's just a short version of the training. So we are not able to go into detail on every topic. It's more like an overview. All right. So then I would say we start now with the first slide. And first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about Fronius. And the first thing I want to talk about is stability for generations, which means Fronius is still in family ownership since 75 years now. So on the top picture, we can see Günther Fronius, who founded the company in 1945. So 75-year reunion is this year, 2020. And we're still in family ownership in the third generation right now. It's the middle picture here. The granddaughter of Günther Fronius is running the company. And I think the topic here is a really important one. We are still in family ownership. And the second thing I want to tell you about Fronius is that every inverter, not even the inverters in the solar energy division, but also on this welding division and the battery charging unit, all of our products are designed and produced in Austria. So I think this is also a very important topic to know, that Fronius is producing everything in Austria. All right. So let's step ahead and take a closer look, an overview actually of all of our inverters for the residential and the commercial sector. So first of all, we have the inverter for the residential sector here. From left to right, we have the Fronius Primo. It's a single phase inverter in the power classes from 3 to 8.2 kilowatt. Then we have the same thing for the three-phase market with the small Symo inverter, 3 to 8.2 kilowatt. And we have the big Symo for the bigger residential systems from 10 to 20 kilowatt, three-phase. We go into detail on them in the later SnapINverter part. But this is it for the residential inverters now, the single-phase and three-phase, small inverters, big inverters. Then we have a list of hybrid inverters also. Hybrid inverter at Fronius means we have the ability to directly connect a DC coupled battery to it. And the first component on the left side is the Fronius Symo hybrid, the SnapINverter for smaller three-phase hybrid systems from 3 to 5 kilowatt. As I mentioned, we have a direct battery connection, and also a backup power is possible with this device. Now we go to the new inverter series, and here we talk about the Fronius Primo GEN24 Plus. The Primo actually is the first hybrid inverter for the single phase market in the power classes from 3 to 6 kilowatt. And now we can see it's again a direct battery connection, but now with 2 MPP trackers, so even more flexibility possible. And the same thing also available with the Fronius Symo GEN24. Actually, we can see here now it's completing the portfolio of the three-phase hybrid market. The smaller one is the Fronius Symo hybrid. The bigger one is then the Fronius Symo GEN24 from 6 to 10 kilowatt available, the output power. And again, with a little bit higher flexibility due to 2 MPP trackers. More on the inverter details will come in the following slides. But that's it for the hybrid inverters of Fronius. Then, of course, there are inverters for commercial. The first one is again the big Symo, 10 to 20 kilowatt. It's a very flexible inverter for the bigger systems. And there is also the Fronius Eco SnapInverter in power classes 25 and 27 kilowatt. It's actually a weight and cost optimized inverter for bigger systems. More on that later. So now we have all the areas covered, as well the residential, the commercial and the hybrid sector. Now I quickly want to show you where you can easily get all the information you need. Doesn't need to be only the information about the inverter, but also about all other issues around installation, servicing, updates, and so on. Everything you need to know about our products you can find online in our installer support service center, let's say. So on our homepage, fronius.com, you can find the button Solar Energy, our division. Then you click on Info Center and then on Installer Support. And then there will pop up this huge amount of information where you find everything you need gathered in one place. So there are how-to installation guides. There is the newest software update for inverters. There are manuals, instructions, and so on. Everything you need to know, 24/7 available for you as installer and in a clear and compact surface. So please make sure if you need anything, check out this website first. Maybe you will find it there. All right, so that's for the overview. Now we want to take a closer look at the professional installation of our new Fronius GEN24 inverters. Yeah, I quickly mentioned we have the Symo GEN24, the three-phase hybrid inverter. It actually has 2 MPP trackers. The first one able to power 25 amps, and the second one able of 12.5 amps. In the power classes 6, 8, and 10 kilowatt. And additionally to the 2 MPP trackers, we have 1 battery input, which can handle up to 22 amps. More about the battery issue you will hear tomorrow in our webinar. I have a link on this at the end of the presentation also. There we talk in closer detail about all the battery solutions at Fronius. Also at this place now, I quickly want to mention this whole recording of the webinar and the documentation of the or the presentation of this webinar will be sent to you after the webinar. the next few days, so you will be able to rewatch this if you want and take a closer look then. Okay, now to the Fronius Primo GEN24 Plus, the single phase one. Again, we have two MPP trackers, 22 amps on the first one, 12 amps on the second one. Power classes in the lower range, 3 to 6 kilowatt, and again, one battery input. So now to the installation instructions. Actually, we can install it nearly everywhere. So indoor or outdoor is possible, doesn't matter. We are able to install in temperature ranges from minus 40 degrees Celsius on the Primo, minus 25 degrees on the Symo, even up to plus 60 degrees Celsius ambient temperature. So actually there is no place on earth where we can't install it, the new GEN24 inverter. Also the humidity is of course no problem because of the IP65 security class. It's not able to get wet, the inside of the inverter. And also altitudes are no problem. We can go up to 4,000 meters with the Primo and up to 3,000 meters with the Symo. So even there are not much restrictions. Yeah, what makes it so special to be able to run in these temperature ranges? It's actually the active cooling technology. It's an optimized thermal concept, which is not new at Fronius. So we use the same as we have on the SnapInverters also here on the GEN24, but in a different way. We can see it on the design. We have now one central fan in the middle, and it's sucking the cold air in front of the inverter and blowing out the hot air on the sides, top and bottom of the inverter, to make sure that we have the highest yield, even in hot temperature ranges, and also the longest lifetime of the inverter is then possible. Yeah, it's also possible to mount the inverter side to side next to each other, but please make sure to keep the clearance to allow the airflow of the active cooling concept. In the next slide, we can shortly see it, what this makes in a difference if we talk about the active or a passive cooling. So in this graphic on the right side, we actually can see the output power according to the ambient temperature. And we have here a comparison. The red line is a Fronius Primo GEN24 inverter, actively cooled, and the gray line is a competitor which is passively cooled. And we can see there, of course, the passively cooled system is derating much faster on a even lower temperature range than the Fronius inverter. Here we talk about 50 degrees where the Fronius inverter starts to derate. So within this temperature range, we can secure the maximum yield of our inverter and also the longest lifetime of our inverter. On the left side, I quickly want to show you, we have it written down here, at 75 to 80 degrees heatsink temperature, the power will be reduced. This is about 50 degrees ambient temperature. If the temperature is rising, the inverter will shut down eventually. So that's the big reason why we at Fronius set to active cooling so much. All right. One step ahead, we talk now about the wall bracket. And this is actually also very similar to the SnapInverter ones. It's a simple wall plate, which we can easily fix by one person onto the wall. It's just a little bit optical difference between a Symo and a Primo GEN24. There are recommendations regarding the fixing material, but other than that, you can fix it even onto uneven surfaces. So even uneven surfaces are compensated, but please make sure to avoid deformation of the wall bracket. And after you fixed it to the wall, you can then snap in or hang in the top part of the inverter onto this wall bracket. You can snap it in. So on the bottom right picture, we can see there are hooks, and you can also hear a clicking sound. And if you hear the clicking sound, it's optimal or correct installed, and we can proceed with the installation then. So it's very easy, very fast, and can be done by one person. Yeah, let's take a closer look now on the cabling of the Fronius GEN24 inverter. Before we get to the cabling, of course, we need to take off the cover. And this is done very fast with 180 degrees quick locking screws. This means, first of all, please don't use any kind of power drills, otherwise the screws or the terminals will be destroyed. But the more important thing is we can do it very fast. Just with half a turn of the screwdriver, we can open the front cover with these two screws on the bottom. Please also make sure to disconnect the DC disconnector switch to the off position, and after that we can take off the whole front cover. Then we can see the picture like here on the right side. We can see the cooling ribs, the cooling fan in the middle, and we also can see the black cover for the connection compartment. This is also secured with 5 fast locking screws. So we undo these 5 screws as well, and then we can connect the cables to the connection compartment, which we go into in the next slide. So here we can see now the open inverter without the black cover in front of it. The cable connections here are now from a Fronius Primo GEN24. Yeah, maybe we go from the left to the right. We can see here the plus connections from first MPP tracker, second MPP tracker, and the battery connection. And right next to it, the minus connections, of course, MPP and battery, of course. The first thing we maybe see here, these are not screw terminals. So here we talk now about spring clamps. You just have to open it with one click with the finger. You insert the cable and you can close it again. It's a very fast method to do and undo this cabling. Okay, right to the DC connections here on the left side. In the middle we have the pilot, it's called. It's actually the data communication. So the head of the inverter is sitting there. It's standard integrated. The whole device won't function without this device. So the pilot is mandatory. It's necessary. And on the pilot, we have later on a more detailed view. But here we can connect other devices like the Fronius smart meter. The battery would be connected also here, and so on. So all the data communication is done through the pilot. Yeah, the pilot is covered with the separation from the connection area. It's this white plastic board here, just to cover it from any high voltages. Right next to it, there is the grounding terminal block. It's just a copper grounding block where we can fix the grounding cables onto. And on the right side of the grounding block, there is the PV point. So in this webinar, we won't be able to go into much detail on the PV point. This is then a topic of tomorrow's webinar, but just one sentence. The PV point is a special option for the GEN24 inverter to supply a sort of backup power, with all the switching gears inside the inverter already built in as standard. But more on this will be followed by tomorrow's webinar. Okay, right next to the PV point, we can see then the AC connection. As we talk about the Primo, we talk about the single phase. On the Symo, it would look a little bit different. But on all these compartments, DC connection, AC, and PV point, we always have these spring clamps. All right, so let's step one slide ahead. There is, of course, a a separate option, we can insert a surge protection device within the inverter itself. This is an option which can be integrated afterwards, so it's just not a normal DIN rail mounting. As we can see here, this is a Fronius solution with the surge protection devices soldered onto a print board, and the print board can be then installed underneath the spring clamps, and therefore we are able to mount the SPD within the inverter itself. So it's a retrofit kit. There is no assembly possible ex-factory. You have to do it your own, let's say, and you can order it normally via your wholesaler. All right, let's go ahead. I quickly want to mention one thing about the system design. I hope everybody is familiar with this, the Fronius Solar Configurator. Fronius Solar Configurator is an online tool. If you're not familiar, check it out. It's a free of cost online tool for a very fast and rapid check if your system is correctly designed. I really recommend this for every Fronius inverter. Doesn't matter if it's Gen24 or an older inverter even, because there we can see if we are in the right voltage range, if we are not over-dimensioned too much, and so on one click, more or less. So it's a very fast method. Yeah, what I want to mention is on the Symo Gen24, we have a very wide input voltage range from 80 volts up to 1000 volts. So actually we talk here about standard modules from 4 to 24 modules, which we can connect here. And the device would even work even with this low amount of modules within a string. Yeah, and on every device, also on the SnapInverters, it is possible to over dimension our inverter up to 150%, which means on a Symo Gen24 10 kilowatt device, we can connect 15 kilowatt peak onto the device without any damage or warranty issues and so on. So this is possible on every device. And please make sure the input current is different between the MPP trackers. The first one, as I mentioned, 25, the second one, 12.5 amps. Yeah, the same goes for the Primo Gen24. It even starts on a lower range of 65 volts. But here now the big difference, the Primo Gen24 is not a 1000 volt device. So please make sure not to put more than 600 volt is the maximum which the device is able to handle on the DC side. Otherwise, it would be destroyed. So please make sure to dimension it right. And therefore, again, please use the Fronius Solar Configurator also. Yeah, the sizing of the strings is here now 3 to 14 standard modules. So even lower amount of modules can be connected. The over-dimensioning is the same with 150%, and also the current is different between the MPP trackers. All right, so now let's step one slide ahead to the data communication of the Fronius Gen24. How does it look like on this so-called pilot device? So the pilot, as I mentioned, is the data communication center, the head of the inverter, let's say. And as we saw on the picture of the Gen24, we don't have a display like on the SnapInverters. But instead we have a LED status display. And the LED status is done by this pilot actually. So that's one function which is covered by this device. So it's a LED status display. But it's more than that. It's also a data logger. It's functioning like a web server. We are able to connect to the internet and also put the data onto SOLAR.WEB to have a visualization. So this is all done by the pilot. Yeah, we have all sorts of multiple open interfaces like 2 Ethernet switches, 2 LAN ports. We have 2 Modbus ports also, and a WSD function is possible as well. This is a function I think we will do in a later webinar into more detail. Basically, we can do an emergency stop function with this one, but more on that in a later webinar. Yeah, and of course, there are digital in and outputs possible as well. All right. So now let's go to the Fronius smart meter. Actually, what is the Fronius smart meter? We talk here about the bidirectional energy meter for measuring energy consumption and feed-in power. And yeah, the Fronius smart meter, the primary smart meter, is always sitting on the feed-in point of the household, because there we can see the whole measure, the whole energy flow of the whole system. So it's an analysis and a visualization of consumption data, and actually it's a basis for complete monitoring in Fronius SOLAR.WEB, because without it, we only would get the production data. But of course, we also want the consumption data. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a bidirectional meter. It's measuring consumption as well as the feed-in data, and therefore it's providing the inverter with the energy flow of the whole system. Yeah, unfortunately, we are not able to cover the whole Fronius smart meter topic within this webinar, but down below I put down the link to the YouTube video about this. If you're interested, just type into YouTube why you should install a Fronius smart meter. We previously did a webinar about the Fronius smart meter where all your questions should be answered. All right, so let's go on now with the slides and go to the initial commissioning of the Fronius GEN24. So up to now, we did the correct installation and the cabling. Now it's time to commission the whole device. So how is this done actually? It's done by opening the Wi-Fi access point. The access point is on the middle of the inverter between the two LED displays. So here we can see it blinking, and in between those LED ports we have one sensor. It's a light sensory button, and by clicking once on it we open the Wi-Fi access point. This is possible after we switched on the DC disconnector to on, and after we supplied the device with AC, then it will start blinking, and then we push the button once and open the access point. Yeah, what to do next after opening the access point? We can do the commissioning in many ways, let's say. First of all, there is the option to use the smartphone app, or we can also do it with the web browser. For those of you who are familiar with the web browser, like for the SnapINverters, it's the same process, also for the Gen24, but there will also be able the way to do it with the smartphone app. The app will be called Fronius Solar Start. You can use it on your smartphone, on your tablet. It will be possible to do it on iOS and Android, but there will be a few differences. And yeah, actually you can choose whether you want to do it with app or with web browser. And yeah, on the app, I will show you in the following slides. Just shortly, on the web browser, you open the access point with one press on the light sensory button. You open the browser on your device, on your laptop, for example. You connect to the inverter's access point, and then on the web browser you enter this pin down below. It's the same IP address on every inverter, also on the SnapINverter, the same IP address. And after you entered it, you will be automatically forwarded to the web interface of the inverter. So that's one step or one way to do it with the web browser. On the smartphone app, it would look like this. You open your app, you click on whether you want to do a Gen24 or a SnapINverter commissioning. Then you will be forwarded, or the app will tell you to open the access point, and it will automatically search for the open access point. And after it connected, it will guide you next to the web interface and will guide you through the next steps you need to do. So a very fast way to do it, both on app or browser. And for more details, there is again the link down below to our YouTube video. It's just a 1 or 2 minute video about the Gen24 Plus commissioning. I really can recommend it. It's a very good video about how to commission it. Please check it out. All right, we step ahead to the next slide, the optimum visualization in Fronius SOLAR.WEB. Yeah, the ones of you who already know Fronius SOLAR.WEB, it's a repetition here. So what actually offers Fronius SOLAR.WEB? It's a system visualization and monitoring platform. We can do their energy balancing in a daily, monthly, or yearly view. That's up to you, up to the customer. There is the possibility to do own consumption visualization. You can even get out the service messages, or you can do remote updates from your office desk. That's also possible if the system is online and on SOLAR.WEB. And yes, there is a premium version. You don't have to choose it, but there is the option to get it. It's a chargeable option. And the differences are that you get a little bit more detailed reports and data analysis, and also battery and own pilot simulations. That's also a very good idea. If the customer is not sure if he wants a battery yet, then he can use the simulation first. And there is also a very detailed weather widget. Yes, these are the main differences. Please check it out. There is also a demo version online on Fronius SOLAR.WEB. If you want to make yourself familiar with this tool, please check it out online, FroniusSolarWeb.com. Yeah, also on Fronius SOLAR.WEB, there is then the option to do a Fronius warranty extension. There are a few warranty models available that are able with or without registration. So if you don't do anything, there are typically 2 years warranty plus from the date of installation on this product. And if you do online registration of this device within those first 2 years, you're able to do a free of charge extension of the warranty. You can choose there between a 3-year warranty model plus 3 years or plus 5 years warranty. So in total, you would get 5 years or 7 years warranty free of charge if you do a registration within the first 2 years. The difference between those two models is that the warranty plus covers as well material, service, as well as transport, and the 5-year model is covering only the material costs. So this is the difference, but please make sure for your specific country to check it again, because there can be a little bit difference there. And other than that, there are of course further extensions possible up to a maximum of 15 years. So after the 5 or 7 years, you can extend. Okay. Now let's take a closer look on the service of the Fronius Gen24. As I mentioned, there is the option to do a remote update via Fronius SOLAR.WEB. So actually you go to your components, to your system on SOLAR.WEB, and you click on components, and then everything within this system will be shown to you. The data sources, the energy meters, the inverter will be shown, and also the updates installed and available. And here you can click on update to do it from your office desk remotely, if there is the need to do an update, of course. So that's always the most important topic. Usually we don't need to do an update, but if the customer wants it or we request it, then you can do it remotely. Yeah, and the second thing about service is, of course, which spare parts are actually available? What can I exchange? First of all, of course, the whole inverter can be replaced. That's possible if anything gets damaged. Then the power unit itself, so the whole heatsink, the whole metal aluminum part can be replaced. At the back of this cooling part is all the print boards onto this. So this whole unit can be replaced as well. So you can get the exchange part, drive with the power unit to the customer and exchange this one. The pilot, the cover, and also the fan, of course, can be also replaced as well. That's no problem. All right, so now we want to take a closer look. So we want to close the Gen24 part right now, and we want to take a closer look on the SnapInverters, because there are a few options where we there is a very good need of the Fronius SnapInverters as well. Yeah, here a closer detail about the residential ones. So I have listed here the Primo for single phase, the Symo, and the Symo hybrid. Just to mention, we have different options here regarding the MPP trackers. On top, we can see the power classes 3 to 8.2 kilowatt. And after that, we can see a letter S or M, which stands for single MPP tracker or multiple MPP tracker. So that's every time an indicator where you can say which device you have right now. And as we can see, we have for the Primo and the Symo 1 or 2 MPP trackers, and the Symo hybrid, which has 1 MPP tracker and 1 battery connection. Every SnapInverter here we can see is a transformerless inverter. We have a very high efficiency, as we can see on all 3 of them, and also the protection class. It's the same as on the Gen24 IP65, which means it's dust tight, spray water tight, so we can also install it outdoors. All right, so this is about the residential, a closer look now, and on the commercial, now a closer look with the big Symo and the Echo inverter. We can see again, the Symo has the M for 2 MPP trackers, and the Echo only has 1 MPP tracker, indicated by this S here. So 2 times 3 strings can be connected, and on the Echo 1 times 6 strings can be connected. And here is also a difference between the 2 inverters. The Symo has a very wide input voltage range from 200 to 1000 volts. The Echo from 580 up to 1000. So a little bit lower input voltage range. But if we consider it's about commercial rooftop or free-field installations, we talk about long strings, mostly the same direction, big PV plant. Usually we easily get there on the high voltages, no problem, with ease. Yeah, again, we have transformerless topologies and a very high efficiency, and even a little bit higher protection class, IP66 here. Yeah, also the active cooling concept is the same as I mentioned. We can see here 2 power units, the back side of it. On the left side, we can see a big SnapInverter. On the right side, we can see a small SnapInverter. The difference is the amount of fans. Left side, only 1 fan blowing cold air from the side of the inverter onto the top where the hot air will be put out. And on the small one, we have 2 fans, left and right. But other than that, the whole system will work the same as on the Gen24. We have a higher yield, a later derating behavior, and a longer lifetime of our components. That's very important to know. Yeah, the SnapInverter wall bracket is also very similar. The only difference is the connection compartments for DC and AC is integrated within this wall bracket. But again, it's a very light wall bracket. It's anodized aluminum. It can be mounted by only one person with ease. And after we did this, we can do the connection, AC and DC, and then we snap in the top part of the inverter, again, like on the Gen24. But more on that in the next slides. Yeah, recommendations for the wall mounting. Actually, it's the same thing like on the Gen24. The only difference is for the small devices, we recommend 3 screws. For the big devices, 4 screws. It's just because of the weight difference. But other than that, can be easily done by one person and can be fixed also on uneven surfaces. Yeah, after we did the wall, or we fixed the wall mounting, we want to take a closer look on the cabling of the Fronius SnapInverter. Here I want to show you a connection compartment of a Symo, a big Symo, 10 kilowatt. In the red bubbles we can read cable diameters or cable dimensions can be put in from 2.5 square millimeters up to 16, both for AC and DC, and copper or aluminum can be used. Yeah, from left to right again, we can see a DC disconnector switch. Again, it's just a manual switch here. Then, because we're talking about the Symo, we talk about 2 MPP trackers. Here we can see the plus poles, 2 times 3 connections, and altogether the minus poles for the DC area. Then we can see the strain relief, of course. It's where we can fix the DC cables. And onto the far right, we can see the AC screw terminal. Yeah, and one thing I want to mention here is on top of the connection compartment, we can see screw terminals for SPDs, which can be connected here. One SPD for each MPP tracker. And that's actually what I want to explain in the next slide. There are options also like on the Gen24 to integrate the SPD within the wall bracket. As we now saw, there is the option for the big SnapInverters, so the big Symo and the Echo from 10 kilowatt on, to do it on a DIN rail mounting. We can see it on the picture below. It's just mounted on a DIN rail, and the cable connection will be done then on top on these screw terminals I just mentioned. Actually, there are 4 technical designs. Either you want to use a type 1 and 2 or just type 2 for single MPP or multiple MPP. You can also have it ex-factory, so pre-assembled, or you can do it yourself with a retrofit kit. That's only possible for this big SnapInverters for the DIN rail mounting. And there is the option for small SnapInverters on the left side here, up to 8.2 kilowatt. Again, this is a Fronius solution here with the soldered on SPDs onto a print board, which can be fixed then onto the left side of the connection compartment. And it's no installation ex-factory possible. That's the difference here. You have to do it then after you ordered it yourself with the retrofit kit. And there is only one option with the type 1 and 2 possible. Yeah, but again, this would be an option to integrate the SPD within the device, within the wall bracket. So now that we did the mounting plate correctly and we did the cabling correctly, we want to mount the inverter as we mentioned, and we want to close the DATCOM cover. Please make sure after you snap in the inverter to fix these 2 screws at the bottom. Very important to make sure the connections from the top part to the wall mounting are secured. So please make sure to fix those 2 screws. After that, we can switch on the DC disconnector to on position, and then we can close the DATCOM cover. There is a difference on small and big devices with 2 or 4 screws. And after we did this, we are again IP65 or IP66, so dust tight, water, spray watertight, and no rain or snow can harm us anymore. Yeah, after that, of course, we want to commission the SnapInverter. It's done very easily and very fast in 5 steps on the display. On the SnapInverter, actually, we have this display with 4 capacitive buttons down below. And with these buttons, after we did AC, after we switched on AC and DC, there will shine this info box, and then he will guide us through the installation wizard. And the installation wizard is, as I mentioned, in 5 steps done. First of all, we want to choose the language, then the country setup, we set time and date, and the last thing is we want to set the second MPP tracker, if we have one, to on or to off. And then after those 5 steps, the inverter is running, producing, and he's feeding in power. So that's the only 5 steps we need to do to get the inverter to running. If you want to do a reset, it can be easily done with an AC reset, or you can also enter a special code, which I want to show you right now. So on the SnapInverters, we have special service menus. Of course, I don't want to go into detail, but as you get the recording and the presentation of this webinar, you can check it yourself. There are submenu codes on the Fronius SnapInverter where you can easily change country setup, language. If you previously switched the MPP tracker to off and now you want to switch it on, you can easily do this with these codes. And to enter this code, you need to go to the display and use the third button from the left and press it 5 times. And after 5 times, there will be shown on the display a code symbol and 5 digits. And with this 5 digits, you can easily enter one of these, the one you use, the one you need, and then you will enter this submenu code. So that's a very easy and fast way to change something in the settings. All right, so let's go on with the data communication on the Fronius SnapInverter. Actually, there are a few differences, of course, to the Gen24. First of all is we don't have a simple LAN Ethernet connection as we have on the Gen24. On the Gen24, it's a simple Ethernet connection from one inverter to another or to the internet. On the SnapInverter, we have a so-called SOLAR.WEB protocol. It's a Fronius intern protocol, which is no normal Ethernet protocol. And we have a ring topology here. So for example, if we have a system with 4 inverters here, we can connect every inverter to another. And please make sure it's a ring topology. We have to close the ring. Therefore, we have this termination plugs here on the first and the last one. And then the ring is closed and the whole data will be then collected by one data manager. This one data manager card can be inserted in one of the devices and will store all of the data produced by these 4, for example. So it really stores all of the production data of the whole system. And it's then possible to be connected to the internet and can send the data to SOLAR.WEB and so on. Yeah, very important are the settings or the parameters. I already mentioned, please set the termination plugs on the SolarNet ring and also address the inverters. Of course, we need to address it because otherwise they wouldn't understand each other. We need to set inverter 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. We can do up to 100 inverters in such ring topology. So actually one data manager can store data of 100 inverters. And it is also possible if we have, for example, 4 inverters with 4 data managers inside to just switch off 3 of them. We switch them to slave and only one of them is switched then to master. That's very important. Within a system, only one master data manager is possible. Yeah, but other than that, the connection can be done like this, the communication can be done like this, and a bigger system can be installed. And also, again, the next topic is then how can we connect to the inverter and how can we get the inverter online? We again open the access point by activating the access point on the inverter display. It's just on settings, and the second bottom topic from the top is Wi-Fi access point. Then we connect with any smart device. We open the browser and enter the IP address. It's the same. And then the setup wizard will automatically start. It's just as easy as that. You will automatically be guided through. Yeah, and after that, you can put the system online to your SOLAR.WEB account and can visualize it on SOLAR.WEB then. All right. So guys, we are at the end of our webinar. As I mentioned, it's just a short version of the training. Of course, we didn't cover everything. So if you're interested and the whole coronavirus situation becomes a little bit better, and as soon as we start with the trainings again, we are happy to have you in our trainings here in Austria. Let us know. Until then, we also have a few more webinars, of course. For example, tomorrow, I quickly want to mention, we have the battery storage solutions. We have a webinar extra for this topic, Fronius storage and energy management, tomorrow on 1st of April. Please check the link out, or check our homepage to register to it, and then you will get all the answers you may had regarding the Gen24 and compatible batteries and so on. Yeah. Okay. Further informations, of course, you can find on our homepage and on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel where we put on every webinar recording we have and how-to and installation guides and webinars, videos. You can find those also. Yeah. Before we quit now, I quickly want to ask Hans, my colleague. Hans, do we have any questions you maybe answer live now?
Yes, Chris, thanks. Just I would like first of all to excuse some interruptions in our audio signal. You know, we're sitting all at home and it's sometimes not so good. The signal is not that good as in our offices, so please excuse that. You will also receive a recording tomorrow, and the recording is always much better than the live situation. So that's the first thing. Then we have had two questions. I mean, there have been some more, but I would like to answer two questions. First of all, what's the best voltage range of the inverters? Basically, it is the 350 with the Primos single-phase units, and it's the 600 with the three-phase units. But there is no big difference if you use slightly smaller, lower or higher voltages. Basically, of course, the very low voltages is so nobody would do, for example, 3 strings of only 4 modules, because of course this is not the best way to do it, because then you have, of course, a little bit lower efficiency. The second question was about active cooling and also lifetime. We found out that with our active cooling, we can keep the temperatures even with the 50-60 degrees ambient temperature low on the transistors, on the power modules, and with that we can actually increase lifetime. We found out that if you have 10 degrees more on the heatsink, the lifetime of the transistors will be half only. So that means our inverters can run even with high temperature, and achieve a high lifetime of up to 20 years or even more. And some competitors with passive cooling will have, of course, their issues with high temperatures. Yeah, this was the 2 questions. There are some more. Basically, I would like to answer questions now in the chat. And Chris, then I would like to give you the word again to end up this session. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Hans, for answering a few of the questions live now. I think everything mentioned right now. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and sorry for the internet connection issues some of you guys had. Very sorry for that. Yeah, as Hans mentioned, we will stay online for you. We try to answer the rest of the questions now via chat, and we simply turn off the microphone. So don't be confused if you can't hear anything more. We still be online for you. And yeah, would be happy to see you in the next webinars then. Thank you guys, and bye.